All right, welcome back, everybody. We're Suncoast NPI, and I'm John Marshall. I'm the owner of Suncoast NPI, and I'm delighted to have this man sitting across from me today. This is going to be fun. Eddie, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
Oh, it's so fun. So what we do here is, if you guys aren't familiar, at Suncoast NPI, we're a networking organization, and we're all about bringing rock stars into the fold as far as organizations and individuals that have a servant's heart, committed to the commitment to make these chapters thrive. And Eddie hits the mark on all of this. But what we're doing now is doing TV, because video content is king. And I know you, Eddie, but I know a lot of people out here. I know we're not going to spend a lot of time here, but just real quick, let's just do a quick piece on who are you and what makes you tick, Eddie.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Eddie Lyons. I'm the Vice President of Business Development for Master Restoration, a local company here in Clearwater, Florida. Awesome. Been in business for about 10 years, and we service about 47 counties in Florida. Interesting story how I kind of stumbled into Master Restoration.
Let's hear it.
I was an insurance adjuster for about 8 years out in the field, and used to use a variety of restoration companies out there,
right,
to service our insureds. Master Restoration happened to be one of them, and had used them several times. And then through our local church, in a small group, I happened to be in there with the owners. I said my name, they said their names, and afterwards we just kind of looked at each other and said, we know each other.
That's awesome.
And then he said, come join. And I'm like, I don't know. I've been a 1099 employee for about 20 years. I don't know if I'm ready to be an employee. But when I heard about what Master Restoration was about and what their why was, immediately attracted to that. And then now I've been with them for about 3 years. As an employee, sometimes I still wake up and go, man, I'm an employee today, not a 1099.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that, and God makes no mistakes. So it's like, so you hit something right there saying, the why, what you heard about their why. Yeah. So why don't you share a little bit about the why and tell us a little bit more about Master Restoration? Yeah,
absolutely. Before kind of getting into the insurance industry, I had the honor of serving as a consultant in the business world and the corporate side. Did consulting from process engineering to leadership development to team building. And in every company I was at, they always had a mission statement. They always had the core values. They always had those pieces.
Right.
But what was sometimes difficult to see is that it wasn't really carried out in action in their company, whether it was in their processes, whether it was in the culture of the company. They had a great mission statement, great core values, but didn't see them in practice. So when Jarrett and I first started talking, I knew immediately that Jarrett, the owner, had a servant's heart. And his only interest was helping people in need. And when he told me his story of how he came to be, I go, got it. From an early on age, he would tell me the story. He was an entrepreneur. In elementary school, he figured out how to divide a pack of gum up and sell each individual piece to make a profit.
There you go.
And I said, that's great. But he said the only reason why he did it is because he saw Sally Struthers on this commercial about kids in Africa who were starving, and he was trying to figure out how to send money to Sally Struthers.
Wow.
And so every one of his endeavors have always been about that. So immediately I was hooked. I'm like, okay, you got my attention, Jarrett. So when I started looking at the why of Master Restoration, it was one of the few companies that really stuck with their mission statement, and that's to be a servant leader in our community and to truly help those in need. And when I saw that, I said, wow, this is amazing. And then what was probably more intriguing was I saw it in his business practices. I saw it from the CEO's perspective that he was willing to do courageous acts within his company to ensure that that mission statement came first and foremost. Not profits, but to help those people in need. And when I saw that, I'm like, okay, this is great. So really that why resonated personally with me too. Ever since I was a young kid, I couldn't define it then, but I always felt like I was a servant leader as well, or needed to service those around me. If you've ever read Five Love Languages,
sure.
Acts of service. That's how I show my love.
There you go.
So Master Restorations really became a perfect vehicle for me intrinsically to really leverage my talents for something that I believe in greater than myself.
Right. So. That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, and I love the why. And that's do you have maybe an example that you said something where Jarrett would go above the example, courageous and started. Is there a story maybe you'd like to share with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of our policy, our business practice, is doing something that no other restoration companies will do. And when we mention it, they kind of scratch their heads. So in our line of business, we're often the first responder in a claims loss.
Right.
So your water heater breaks, water's everywhere. We're usually out there within 4 to 6 hours beginning the cleanup process. The insurance claim process is delayed a little bit. Usually it takes the adjuster to get out there in a couple days. And before actual coverage determination is made on that claim, we're done with our services because we're done within 72 to 96 hours in most cases.
Okay.
Average bill for water mitigation for a house can be anywhere from $1,200 to $2,000 maybe. And what will happen is that they'll find out that their claim is denied after we're done. So typical business practice in other companies will say, very sorry that your claim was denied. However, we did complete some services and here's the bill for that. Now, I put myself in their shoes, right? They just had a water loss. Their life is thrown completely out of loop. Every plan they had is now completely arranged. And they also have a home to fix.
Right.
And they just been find out that there's no financial help from their insurance company for that. So for us, our mission statement came first. If we were to say to you, John, sorry you got denied, but here's a bill for $2,000, we wouldn't really be servicing our mission statement.
That's fair.
So we're the only company that says, John, there's no charge. There's no bill from us. We're not going to put a lien on your home. We're not going to have a bill collector. It's simply gone. There is no fee for you. We call it our insurance guarantee. If your claim is denied and we've completed our services, then there's nothing you owe us, and that's it. The buck stops there, so to say.
That is absolutely amazing.
So I would say that is what we call a courageous business practice that is not the norm. Most people would say, how do you survive if you do that? And I say, well, we've been doing it for 10 years, so something is working.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Amen to that. Yeah. It's like, you know, that's a huge, there's a lot of companies out there that do what you do.
Yeah.
Fair?
Yes. 220 in our market area.
220. That's a lot. Mm-hmm. So you just made a huge differentiator, I would say. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
With that. Is there anything else maybe you want to add on, some things that continue to make you to stand out above as the premier?
Yeah, I think one of the things that separates us as well is, number one, we have a focus on education.
Okay.
And the reason why it stems from this idea that when we work with people in those times of need, it's easy for us to be viewed as the hero because we're coming in, the perspective could be we're saving the day, we're sucking out the water, we're drying your house, right? But what we understand is in that moment, that homeowner is going through a difficult time.
Right.
And it's because there is a bit of a victim mentality. And rightfully so, because they don't understand the process.
Right.
To understand and navigate the insurance claim process can be difficult. To deal with many contractors coming in and out of your home can be very difficult.
Absolutely.
Our perspective is, how do we empower our homeowners so they are the hero of their own situation?
Love it.
And they can make those decisions. So our job is not to come in with the cape. Our coming is to help you and arm you with knowledge so you can make more informed decisions. That's a huge differentiator because unfortunately in our industry, there are some companies out there that will leverage that victim mentality.
Gotcha.
And in that time of stress, put the insured in an awkward position or uncomfortable position to make decisions that they shouldn't be making.
Right. That's amazing. And I love how you position that. And I have a feeling that's very intentional. That your customer is the hero.
The hero, absolutely.
And that's brilliant. And it's smart and it's courageous. And it's the way to go about that. I love it. This is motivating me actually. So speaking of that motivates, you know, I know you want to focus more on us, but what kind of motivates you? What makes you tick? Not maybe personally but then within Master Restoration.
Yeah, I think it goes back to that kind of servant mentality, right? I love watching people grow. I love watching people kind of have those aha moments of, wow. And if I can facilitate them getting to that point, by far that's my biggest motivator. Love to see people grow.
Gotcha. That's great. How about let's look at this. Things change, right? Do you see some trends coming up?
We do.
Whether it's insurance or would you mind sharing some of those trends that you see coming up on the horizon?
Yeah, so in our business model, if you will, we do a lot of work with the insurance companies.
Right.
And what we see is the insurance company model is beginning to transition If you ever watched any commercials that are out there right now, you'll notice that the claims process is trying to be as quick, almost push a button.
Right.
You have a water loss, push this button, it's all taken care of. If you have a dent in your car, take a photo, you're going to get a check the next day.
Absolutely.
Even the duck from Aflac will pay you the same day, right? So the trends are, how do we get the claims process to be shorter to do better service for our insureds? Now, we recognize that. So what we have done is we've actually begun to change our internal process to be a little bit more forward-thinking, to be prepared for what we see in the future. There are certain segments of that business model that will be obsolete in the future because of technology and because of the trust between your insurance carrier and the contractors out there.
Absolutely.
And we are seeing what that future is, and we're beginning to position ourselves right now to make sure we're prepared.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So how about, it sounds like in that realm, do you spend a lot of time in the world of partnerships? Is that fair? So when you guys are looking at that, both today and as you're looking in the future, how do you actually kind of, when you're considering a partner, what are some of the key things that you're looking at as you're looking to work with that partner? And even maybe in the backside, what are some deal breakers for you?
Yeah, I think it starts with the larger concept, right? The larger concept is we believe in abundance. We don't play a zero-sum game. So when I look at what's out there, our perspective, even on people within our own industry, might be a little bit different than what some people would call a competitor. We actually don't have any competitors, and that's a true statement from the upper management team and our owner, because we don't look at other restoration companies as competitors. They're a potential partnership. They're a potential entity or people to help us carry out our mission statement.
Love it.
If our goal was to make money and that was truly our end game, then sure, we'd have a different perspective.
Right.
But we truly want to be an agent of change, to be on the forefront, to change and shape things for the better. That takes everybody.
Right.
And some people think, well, that's potentially an adversarial relationship. My perspective is no, not at all.
Right.
It's a limited way of thinking.
Gotcha.
So it starts with that. And it starts with that ability to kind of see those. So for us, I would partner with another restoration company, especially one that may not have the similar business practice with us, to maybe help shape and influence them.
Absolutely.
Right? When you think of a deal breaker and who you would or would not partner, I would be very careful with that, right? I don't want to put any limiters on our mission statement. The moment I put a deal breaker on, it could be influenced by my own personal perspective and not necessarily what our mission statement is. Right. And if I tune into our mission statement, then maybe there are no deal breakers out there. I just have to figure out how to work around that to get them to that piece.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I mean, you mentioned a word earlier that I love, abundance, right? So you have that abundance mindset, abundance mentality. I think of, all tides rises all boats, and so I think it's awesome. This is a delight to sit down and peel back the onion with you and your organization a little bit more. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
How about this? Like, life happens, things get busy, things get chaotic. So with that, when it does, and when you're dealing with employees, how's the motivation? How do you, when things, whatever, maybe the day's not going the way you want, how are you looking to lean in to keep your employees or team members motivated?
It starts with culture, right? It's a really focused effort on understanding what your culture needs to be. We work in an extremely stressful environment. Unfortunately, for us, the phone call rings, there's someone in a stressful situation.
Absolutely.
It's also a fortunate thing for us because now it's an opportunity for us to help somebody. But the folks who work within Master Restoration, every day they deal with a lot of stress. So for us, we wanted to make sure that our culture could alleviate some of that stress either through natural and organic means, such as physically how we're set up.
Right.
So to give you an example, we're not set up in office cubicles. As a matter of fact, our open production area is exactly that. There are no walls. Our entire team that's in charge of production sits in one large space because we know that human interaction and that human connection is one of the greatest soothing things. If someone just gets off the phone with a very stressful situation, but they know they got a team of people literally next to them, that's huge for them. And they can turn around and have that conversation. They can roll their chair over to 2 feet away and have that conversation.
Absolutely. That's very cool.
We promote that at any time during the day. We have an employee area that has a pool table, shuffleboard, foosball.
What?
It's a whole relaxing area, right?
You guys hiring?
Absolutely. But for us, it's like, take that time, go over there.
For sure.
When we first set it up, funny story, nobody was going over there.
No.
So we all were like, let's go play a game of pool. We start pulling employees, pay pool, and do all that kind of stuff. Because we really believe that, hey, we get it. We know what you're dealing with. We need you to be on your A game. So take that time and take a breath.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. How about the world of goals and kind of 2020, 21, 22? Where do you see the goals for Master Restoration? Where do you see that going, and what are you guys shooting for?
Yeah, so 3 years ago when I came on board, we had basically a 3, 5, 10-year plan. The first 3 years was really to get our company in a position where we could scale correctly.
Okay.
So Jared had been in business for about 7 years at that time, and he had a bigger vision. And when I came on board, and with some other key people that came on board, we knew we needed to create some really good processes that were measurable within our businesses.
Understood.
And once we got those processes in place, then we could actually look at scaling. So that first 3 years was, let's solidify our process, let's quantify them, let's measure them, let's make sure we're going in the right path. And at that 3 years, now we're ready to begin that scaling process.
Okay.
We're at the end of the 3 years, and we are now beginning that. And scaling for us means basically opening up a different location, to be simply put.
Okay.
And then be able to run our same process at that location to produce the results that we want.
Okay.
So what we would like to, now that we're at that stage, is by the end of the 5 year, is to really have a strong physical presence within the entire state of Florida.
The entire state. That was my thing. So open up another location.
Correct.
Okay.
And the plan is right now we have our Clearwater location. We do have satellite locations that are already up and running, but then to truly have like a warehouse and an admin team and a fleet of vehicles, we're looking at anywhere from 3 to 4 locations total in Florida that we can service the entire state. And then once we have that, there's some scaling involved with that now, because we have multiple locations.
Absolutely.
10-year plan is to be from Texas over to South Carolina, down in the Southeast region.
Love it. I love it. Hopefully we'll be able to play a small part in that too. With helping you guys getting there. So that's great. You want to share something, like a favorite quote, inspirational, something that that sticks out to you when you're like, like, hey, I need something to lift me up.
Yeah. Well, we have two, and I use it all the time. And one of them is by Abraham Lincoln, and it is, if you give me 9 hours to chop down the tree, what are you going to spend your time doing, right? Well, Abraham Lincoln's going to spend at least 8 hours sharpening that axe. So for us, it's such a great quote because we are sharpening our axe every day and trying to get that fine-tuned before we swing it.
Right.
So that's a huge one for us.
Love it.
It's very fitting for where we are.
Gotcha. You want to talk about maybe some risk that you've taken or you've seen Master Restoration that maybe glean some wisdom for some folks out here that are tuning in?
Yeah, I think when you look at it, for me personally, the biggest risk was, as I'd mentioned earlier, is stepping in back into the employee world and believing in something. I think anytime you're taking a risk, make sure that your heart and your belief is in what you're taking that risk for. If you don't have that, then that passion isn't there, and then that risk then becomes maybe a greater risk than necessary.
Right.
Don't go into it half-hearted. Go into it full throttle. Have that passion.
That's awesome. Yeah. So with that, some professional advice. You've been around. You've done a lot of things. You've accomplished a lot of things. So what would stand out to you? Somebody that at some point in your time, like a best chunk, a little Scooby snack of a professional advice nugget that was that's probably still near and dear to you.
Ronald Reagan's favorite quote, trust, then verify. I can't tell you how important that is in the business world, right? That trusting aspect is important because it allows you to, number one, not micromanage a thing, get the right talented people in and to execute, but you always have to go back and verify if what you're doing is correct. And my piece of advice is make as much as you can quantifiable. So you look at numbers to verify if what you trusted is correct.
That's phenomenal. So I think we have just a couple minutes. So how would you like to spend the next couple minutes? What would you like to get across to this audience that's tuning in? This has been powerful. It's actually lifted me up, Eddie. So thank you. Thank you very much.
I think a big key thing that's been a guiding force for me in my life and in every business is to really have what I call a backdrop. Every one of us has a computer, right? And on the computer, there's a backdrop picture of something. And that backdrop picture is always there to remind us, whether it's a picture of your kids,
Right.
your favorite place to go to, your favorite scenery, or whatever it is. You look at that computer screen every day to remind you of what's important to you. And I think what's served me well over the years, and what I would ask anybody to do, is really put in focus, what is your backdrop? What is hanging in the back of your screen every day when you wake up? Whether you visualize it, whether you hear it, whether you pray about it, whatever it is,
Sure.
what is that piece for you? And make sure you keep that in focus so it keeps you on the right path.
Love it. What's your backdrop?
Oh, my backdrop right now is my faith for sure. It's my faith. It's a filter that I try to use every day. It's tuning into the Word and making sure that the truth is spoken through me, and I allow that to come through me, not try to control it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. Give me goosebumps right there. I love it.
Good
People
deal.
know me. If I don't have my daily date with Jesus, I'm in trouble.
You have to have
So
it. Yeah, you got to start in the truth.
yes, sir. That's fabulous. If you don't mind, plug NPI.
Yeah.
How's your experience been with Suncoast NPI?
Yeah, NPI has been great. Probably many of the folks who watch this have been part of networking groups before. I think one of the things that really struck me about NPI is it was one of the first groups that I felt like it was a family I was stepping into, that the relationships were genuine and not convoluted by numbers, or there wasn't excessive amounts. I've been part of networking groups where there's 60, 70, 80 people, and it's just a different feel. I remember the moment I walked into NPI, I felt like I was walking into someone's living room almost, and that these people had relationships that felt more like a family than it was a business. And just marketing and business development 101, it's all about how deep you can get that relationship.
Right.
And that was a huge differentiator for me.
Gotcha. I appreciate it. Awesome. Hey, Eddie, this has been amazing. So one of the things we talked about earlier was the why. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people are endeared with that word why. But I personally, this is just my take, I don't think a lot of people actually peel that onion back deep enough so it really comes into their core. Yeah. So I would love to hear from you on the why, your why, and then the why on just your why. Let's give your take on it. Is that fair?
Absolutely. So the why is obviously a new concept, and Simon Sinek, if you've never heard of him, he did a great job of articulating that and did a great TED Talk on that. But that why piece is really important. Most companies know what they do, right? And if you look across any industry, everybody has the same what. Whether it's a computer manufacturing company, a clothing manufacturer, their what is they make clothes, they make computers, and so forth. And then the next layer is the how. Well, how do you achieve your what? Or how do you produce your what? And often that doesn't look really that different, but that is where you begin to see the difference of the why. Because now you begin to peel back that onion, as you're saying it, and you see their internal practices that are now driving the what, but are coming from the deeper level, and that's the why. So the why is why. Why are you doing what you're doing? To give you good examples is, if you look at, and Simon Sinek talks about this, if you look at Apple or Nike or some of your really large companies that were true market disruptors who came into the market and became known for their product in a unique way, you can trace it back to their why. You can see it in their catch slogan. Right. Everybody knows Nike's catch slogan, right? Just do it.
Just do it.
Right? It's not, let's sell the best shoe. It's not the fastest shoes on earth or the most well-constructed shoes. Now, they knew that that's not what their why was. Their why was to help people get off the couch and be physically active. Right. They just happened to make shoes that you could buy to help you do that. Apple, what's their catch slogan? Think different. Steve Jobs wanted innovation in this world. He wanted everybody to be an entrepreneur and to think for themselves, because he knew collectively we could achieve greater things. Absolutely. He just happened to say, I got a really cool computer that can help you think different, right? Yep. So I love that, and you see the success that they have. But you also see it in all their business practices that their why is a firm foundation where everything emanates from. Because the reality is, their what? Nike's what doesn't look any different than Reebok's.
Yeah.
They make shoes with shoelaces.
Yep.
Apple's doesn't look anything different from Dell Computers. They still make computers. As a matter of fact, probably the same manufacturing plant in China. It's that why that differentiates them.
That's brilliant, and I appreciate it. So this has been a great session, Eddie. So one of the things, how do you, when you visualize the insurance companies are out there and they deal with a lot of folks, so what really makes you guys stand out and much more attractive when it comes to the insurance folks as they're looking?
Yeah, so we spoke a little bit about that before, kind of a differentiator in how we service the insurance model and what's coming in the future. What we're finding is that the millennial generation is making a huge impact. Back in the day when the baby boomers ruled, the baby boomers wanted to be in control. They wanted to make decisions. They wanted to know what's going on.
Right.
But the millennials, they just want to push a button and get it done, right? They don't want to make 5 phone calls. They don't want to search. They just want to push the button. So in response to that, knowing that there is going to be a leadership change nationally, no matter what, as long as time marches forward, the millennials are and will become the leaders of the future. They're looking for a one-stop stop. They want our companies in the restoration industry to be able to handle a claim from beginning to end in all aspects. That means go clean up the water and remediate it, repair everything that's been damaged, handle all the contents that might have been damaged, and help guide them through the insurance process. So we have, again, positioned ourselves to ensure that we can handle all those service lines.
Right.
And that's made us very attractive to the carriers, because now that when they call Master Restoration, they don't have to call anybody else. They can completely handle the claim for that insured and for the carrier.
That's incredible. I appreciate you sharing that and having that stand out.
Yeah, thank you.
We're wrapping up here, and one final thought. Eddie Lyons, you want to bring it? One final thought?
Yeah, be passionate in what you do every day, be professional, and love your job.
So, Eddie Lyons, Master Restoration, thank you so much for being part of this. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.